Hello, and welcome to another guide to vintage PCs. I would like to demonstrate that bigger is not always better. You don't always need the big Chungus tower. Sometimes you can get away with something a little smaller. Now this here is an extremely dirty gateway profile. This is not the first one, but this is the first LCD gateway profile. The original one was a CRT. Now what this has inside it is kind of like a laptop from the era. It has an AMD K6-2, I believe 233 megahertz. It has 64 megabytes of RAM. Not that bad. Not that bad at all. I believe it has S3 Verge graphics. I could be wrong. But it has all of the things that you would expect to find on a full-fledged desktop PC. It has a currently broken DVD drive. It has, well, yeah, that is DVD. It has a floppy disk drive, and it has all of the connectors that you will need. 2 USB ports, audio ports, keyboard, mouse. It's even got parallel, serial, modem. This is an extremely good option for people who want to try out vintage PCs but do not have the space. Now there, of course, are other options. Also, built-in speakers, so technically you don't even need the audio. Oh, it's a little heavy. So, what else can we do? Well, Shuttle. When you want all the convenience of a desktop, but little. Shuttle PCs do have some pretty big caveats, though. This is one of their earlier ones. It has a Pentium 3 500 megahertz. Might actually be a Celeron, I don't remember. But this particular one only has a single PCI slot for expansion. And it's weird. I'm actually going to show you here, because it's sideways. Not all shuttles do this. I think this is actually one of the few ones that does. But it is cramped in here. You've got your hard drive here, which is above the PCI card. So you're not fitting any large coolers in here. And one of the things that Shuttle is well known for is really poor cooling. Now this one does have an exhaust fan here. It is extremely noisy. But look at this. Look at this. If you have a PCI card, the cooler is half obstructed. Now again, it's only 500 megahertz, so it's probably just fine. But that's not the only problem that these computers have. I love shuttles. I think I've got 8 or 9 of them at this point. I collect them, I have a problem. But no one talks about the following. Their power supplies are awful. The power supply in this, completely dead. In fact, the power supply in almost every single shuttle that I have is dead. So I had to replace them. Now luckily they use an actual standard. I don't remember off the... Oh, Flex ATX, that's what it's called. Flex ATX power supplies. Now I took one out of a server and crammed it in here. I had to cut some of the metal away. And yeah, it's not great. The case pinches on them. It's a difficult time. Luckily, the newer shuttles actually changed the orientation of the power supply, so it's not as much of an issue. Let's move on to one of those. This is a lot newer. This has an Athlon in here. I believe it's an Athlon XP, but again, I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've actually powered any of these on. Now, one of the issues with these shuttles is a lot of them only have 2 PCI slots. Here, you can see the expansion slots there. In this particular instance, it does have one AGP slot. But for whatever reason, it's on the outside, which means if you have a fan on your cooler, it's probably going to touch the side panel, because I guess they didn't do measurements when they made these PCs. Additionally, also, yeah, that's right, here's the power supply. They finally oriented it along the chassis, so you won't have the issues that I had with the other one, where when you replace it, you'll have wire clearance issues. But the capacitors on the board are also a huge problem. These Shuttle PCs were kind of cheaper at the time, and the motherboards used, well, cheap capacitors. These things are heavily affected by the capacitor plague, so if you get a Shuttle PC, replace the power supply, replace the main capacitors on the CPU VRM. You should replace all the capacitors on the board, but it's the VRM that really matters. So, other than that, this is a full-fledged desktop. Oftentimes you'll only get 2 slots for RAM, but that's not really much of an issue these days when you can simply get larger capacity sticks of RAM for a lot cheaper than back in the day. I believe I give most of these 2 gigabytes of RAM. So, pretty good stuff. They also have an ingenious sort of tower cooler. It's got heat pipes going from the CPU to the back of the chassis and then up, where this cooler is mounted. Really genius. Now, that hurt. Shuttle also had some weird ones. I have to be careful with this one because the front's actually broken. But this is a socket 775 Shuttle PC with a touch screen monitor built into the front. That's pretty cool. Broken. I got this from a friend whose cat knocked it off of a high shelf. So, yeah. But, just like with all the other Shuttles, there's always something. This chassis only has a PCIe X1 slot. So, a gaming machine, it is not. But you could still throw Windows XP on here, or even like Windows 2000. Have a pretty decent time. The onboard graphics would have been pretty decent for 2000. Like I said, broken. But what if you don't want a desktop? What if you want something that's easier to put away when you're done with it? Well, how about a laptop? This is a Pentium 1. I believe it's 75 megahertz. Nothing crazy, but it does have the nipple mouse, which is sticky, of course, but you can get new nipples for these. It's kind of a knockoff of the IBM laptops of the time. This is an Austin. But it does have a couple of good things. Number one, external audio. Not a lot of laptops had that. They might have had a headphone jack, but this one has all 3. Battery goes... No, this is your card slots. The hard drive goes here. I don't believe I've screwed this one in. It's just stuck. There's your hard drive. There's your floppy drive, which does come out if you... I do not believe I've... It's just stuck. There we go. Floppy drive. And your battery goes in here. As for ports, nothing fancy, but you do get a VGA port. And of course a combination keyboard, mouse, parallel, and of course serial. But hey, this is not a bad machine. This would have come with Windows 95 on it. I would much prefer to put just DOS or even maybe Windows 3 on here. Good little machine. But let's say you want something newer. You don't want to run vintage stuff. Well, you can still do laptops. Oh, this is, of course, my Chungus laptop. All kinds of ports along the back, as many USB as you think you'll ever need. DVD writer, still has a floppy drive, has card slot, you name it. This is the Inspiron 9300 from Dell. This has a Pentium 4 mobile chip Nothing super crazy, but it also is paired with 2 gigabytes of RAM, and buried under here is an GeForce 6800. That's pretty good for a laptop. This is a portable gaming machine. This runs Unreal Tournament, no problem. Even Unreal Tournament 2004. Battlefront 2, you name it. Good PC. You don't even need batteries, although they are still very, very commonly available. This one's dead. Haven't charged it in a while. But what if you want to go even smaller? This runs Windows CE. You can install Windows XP on here if you really wanted to, and it also supports Windows 2000. Not a bad little machine for that, honestly. I don't have a whole lot to say about these. They're kind of a pain, but they're just fun. They're just fun little machines. It's got built-in Wi-Fi. Battery, I believe, is this. Hard to find these, but super, super fun. Great for portable Windows 98 gaming. But you want even smaller. You want new hardware. You don't want to deal with all this stuff that's 20, 30 years old. You just want something that works. How about emulation? I love this thing. It's got a micro SD card slot for all your games. This one's 64 gig. If I can get it back in there. Uses a lithium-ion rechargeable battery. Obviously, it's ripping off the Game Boy Advance SP, which is also really good. I love the SP. But this plays Commodore 64 games. This plays Windows 95 games. And it can play some Windows 2000 games. I think I paid $40 for this. These are great. These are excellent. It runs I believe an ARM processor. It's got Linux on it. And it emulates everything. You can get much more powerful versions of this, which can even run some Windows XP games. But these are just so, so nice. Got a headphone slot, charges over USB-C, and you can replace the battery if it dies. That's great. Not a lot of systems do that anymore. But there you go. An awful lot of reasons why bigger is not always necessarily better or even just the right choice. Thank you very much for watching. I'd like to thank Sean Patrick for being my currently only Patreon member. I do post things for free members, not everything's for paid members, so go ahead over to my Patreon and see what you like. Thank you for watching.